Jay, I know for quite some time now you've been wanting to get on the podcast, and I've been wanting to get you on the podcast. In all fairness, and regrettably, I'm very sorry that it has to be in these circumstances. But you've been doing a tremendous amount of work. I've got the utmost respect for you. The graft that you've been putting in over these last couple of weeks is admirable. And as I say, you deserve every platform that you can get.
I'd like to say thank you so much for letting me on the podcast finally. I know we've talked about it for a very long time. It's a shame it's under these circumstances, really, because we've had a really good chat about football, journalism, but we're here to talk about Wigan Athletic and administration. I really appreciate the kind words as well. It's what any loving football fan would do. I know if Everton was in a similar position as us, you'd have the same mindset and mentality to do everything you can in your power, use your platform and use your voice to help the voiceless and help raise awareness of what's been going on.
Definitely. And as you say there, I think with the courses that we've been on relating to sports media, I think it's almost sort of by default, I think we attach ourselves to the clubs that mean most to us, me being Everton and you being Wigan Athletic. And just to give a bit of background context, for me, Wigan Athletic had always been one of those clubs that have been synonymous with their owner, albeit, the first owner that springs to mind is obviously Dave Whelan, who sold the club in 2018. And how long were Wigan in the Premier League prior to being relegated to the Championship? It was like 7 years.
8 years.
8 years.
We got relegated in 2013 after winning the FA Cup.
After winning the FA Cup, yeah, I remember it well. And as I say, Wigan, again, has always just been one of these teams that are just synonymous with being in the Premier League to me. I remember when there was quite a northern contingent in the Premier League with the likes of yourselves, Bolton and Blackburn, and I'd always attend those away games, and there'd always be clubs that I'd have the utmost respect for, and you would never, ever in a million years imagine them to be in the situation that they are in today. I've always said that once a team is relegated to the Championship, it is a very, very hard league to get out of. So as you say, relegated in 2013 after winning the FA Cup under Roberto Martinez. So I suppose this is going to be one of those podcasts where I just sort of sit back and let you take the floor, really. I mean, I've read several articles, different Twitter threads. I've watched the work from yourself with the likes of Kieran Maguire, Andy Burnham and whatnot. So, as I say, all admirable work, and you deserve every platform to explain what's going on from your situation. So there you go, mate.
Thanks for donating the podcast to me this episode. And I think it's really hard to explain what's been going on in much depth, really, because we don't really know. Everyone's in the dark. It's very murky waters. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's a lot coming out. There's new information every day. I mean, there's so many great threads on Twitter, like you've mentioned. So if anyone's watching this podcast, I'd recommend reading threads more than anything, because it's not something that Wigan fans like to really dwell on. The circumstances, it's mainly what we've been doing is focusing on our efforts on finding out what's happened. I know that we've got a lot of fans investigating and they're doing great, but other fans, we're trying to raise money for the club and save the club, because although this is happening, the team still have games to play. They're still going to travel down. They're still going to get coaches for the weekend. Life's still going on. We've still got members of staff working tirelessly. I know we've let 75 non-playing staff go, a lot of which I'm quite friendly with, and that's obviously heartbreaking, because it's never nice to see anyone lose their jobs, and especially when it's so unbelievable and it's no fault of their own. And I think that's why we need to highlight what's going on at Wigan, because not only will it help the club in the long-term future, but it'll highlight several flaws of the fit and proper persons test, as was probably already previously mentioned with Bolton and Berry. But it gives the EFL a proper chance to reassess what they've been doing over the years and safeguard more clubs, really, because we're the first club this has ever happened to in terms of the scandal that's been going on. But we won't be the last, and obviously with the coronavirus pandemic, we won't be the last club to go in under admin. I know another Champions League club were seriously thinking about it. it's not come out of who it is. I know Andy Burnham confirmed that to me. That's not me just saying, guessing that someone's going to come in and admin. And you can imagine that League One and League Two clubs are also in a similar boat, because in football, as you know with your experience at UCFB, the biggest revenue for football clubs is the fans. Ticket sales in the gate is so important. I know Wigan, we'll see the jokes in the comments, empty seats, no fans, all that nonsense you've heard all the years, and it's so important to get fans through the door. I think people underestimate it really, and obviously behind closed door era, we've lost a real opportunity to kind of get ticket sales in and obviously pump revenue into the club through that. But also on another side of things, we've lost an opportunity to rally the team, because in a situation like this, if it would have happened in a pre-coronavirus pandemic world, we'd be there cheering, supporting the team on through this, would be rallying up before games. And we can't even do that. The closest we can get is a cardboard cutout in the stands. And you got to say the players they're getting paid, I believe, 20% of their normal wage. I'm not sure they've actually been paid just yet, but the performances they've been giving out, considering that some players could just literally down the tools and go, I'm not getting paid, I'm not playing, I'm not bothered. Some people are out of contract and they're still giving it their all, and they could have easily gone, nah, I'm not playing, I don't want to hamper my chances for a future move. But that just sums up Wigan Athletic. With our club, every one of those players are battling, they're fighting for the cause, they're fighting as much on the pitch as with the supporters are off the pitch, and you've got to commend them for that. Paul Cookie's, I know he had a lot of doubters earlier in January, because we had one win in 17 games, and he's well and truly justified the decision to keep him on as manager, because he's been excellent. Man-to-man management is, I don't think there's many better than him at championship level. He gets it. He really does. He gets the town. He's a former player in, I believe, the 80s and 90s, definitely before my time, and he just knows the town, and he knows what it means to so many people. I always say when talking about Wigan Athletic, if you've never been or you've never been a part of the club, you just won't get it. You won't understand that it's such a unique community where everyone's kind of connected. We're all different people in terms of upbringings, backgrounds, personal situations, job situation, but we're all joined together in our local Wigan Athletic, and that's a special thing. And to obviously see what happens this football club is so sad, because no one expects it. There was no signs. Usually when a club goes into admin, there's a bit of an inkling as to what's going to happen and what the future holds. I know Bolton, they announced that they had obviously a lot of debt, and there were signs there, but for Wigan it was very much an overnight thing.
Mm-hmm.
I found out when I was at my grandma's having a bit of a dinner, and I turned on TV. It was there, Sky News, yellow writing, breaking news, and I thought, is this a joke? Someone pulling my leg? But it turned out to be true, and I've got to commend.
I was just going to say, can I interject there, especially during a time like this, as you say, in the pandemic era? I think many football fans, myself included initially, when the news broke, inferred that the administration would be related to the fact that games are now being played behind closed doors, the fact that match day revenue stream is now cut off, and that simply isn't the case at all. I know Wigan were losing around roughly £9 million a year, but I think traditionally, I know Premier League clubs have been that as well, changed a bit since the influx of broadcasting revenues, but traditionally owning or being involved in the board of a football club is a loss-making business. So for the fact of the matter, what happened to have occurred, as you say, has come right out the blue, and I just thought it'd help a lot of people, and obviously this is getting out there to a different audience as well, if you could paint the picture of the events that have unfolded to land you in the situation that you are today.
So basically, in a nutshell, I believe it was the 24th of June, Wigan changed ownership from the International Entertainment Corporation to the Next Leader Fund, which was run by Our Young Laikai, who is otherwise known by his English business name as Kenny. And for the time of the podcast, I'm just going to call him Kenneth because it's a lot easier than saying his Hong Kong name. So basically, he took ownership of the club, and it was already quite strange, in my opinion, to buy and change owners of a football club in the midst of a pandemic. I thought to myself, it's a bit odd because, if anything, they'd be kind of doing cost saving moves to kind of help the club, and to obviously take over. It was very strange, and there was I know there was terms about a 24 million loan. Initially, it was Latics would have to pay 8% interest rate, and then I think it was then 25. This is the top of my memory, so it might be wrong, but basically there's been a lot of murky thing that's going on. But the overruling thing is on obviously the EFL approved Kenneth as the fit and proper owner. So he did the test and he obviously passed. And obviously, a part of that test, you had to prove to have 2 years worth of finances. So for me, to obviously buy a club, then put it into admin just a month later, we need to prove to have 2 years of finance. I immediately think to myself, what's going on here? We can't really say who's to blame. It's not fair to speculate. I know there's a full and thorough investigation going to be going on by an independent board, as confirmed by Andy Burnham, and obviously their letter to the FL. But I think the most important thing you've got to look at is the defence as well, because I know Wigan Today did an exclusive from our young Laikai, otherwise known as Kenny, and he practically tried to pin coronavirus as a reason to put into administration, which, as you know, when it happened in June, the pandemic was already ongoing. It was already a worldwide known problem. So you can't really say, "Oh, I didn't know there was a pandemic," when it was blatantly clear there was a pandemic. So it's very murky. Like it's very hard to even put an understanding on it because there's so many twists and turns to this story. It's honestly best to try and read and research yourself, because I can tell you a little bit of info, but the only way you can really truly understand is by looking into it and researching, because it's so dark and murky. I've never seen anything like it personally. I think it could be a Netflix documentary in a few years. It's that kind of, it's possibly could be one of the biggest sporting scandals I've ever seen, definitely in my lifetime, because it's very hard to really put into words what's happened. But you've got the biggest like interpretation I've seen is the owners potentially got bored and sold the club, or they just decided to cut the losses. But you've got the people I feel for most of the staff, because they're now out of work in probably one of the most saddening times the country's ever faced with the pandemic, and not only have we been struggling over the last few months in our lockdown and that experience, but now they've got to obviously start again. Some people have been there for 15 years. So many club legends in their own right, because as you know, so I know you've been a media assistant at Atkinson Stanley. Is that correct? You've had, as you know, with clubs, the people who work behind the scenes, they're the unsung heroes. They're the lifeblood. The managers and the players, they do on a Saturday afternoon and a Tuesday night if it's lower league. But the people behind the scenes are the real glue of the club, because players come and go, managers come and go, but the staff there are always there. And to obviously see what's happened to them, 75 non-playing staff being made redundant, it made me a bit sick to the stomach, to be honest, because it's really not it's not their fault. It's not the club's fault. And as Andy Burnham said, I'm obviously quoting him because he's got a lot of clout. He's the greatest Manchester mayor, and he's been very, very proactive, as Labour MP Lisa and Andy, in fighting our cause. And he kind of said that he's got a potential meeting with the EFL because obviously when you get an administration, you get a mandatory 4-point reduction. It's automatic. As soon as you enter administration, you slap with it. But we're currently on a campaign to appeal that 12-point deduction or potentially suspend it until a thorough investigations took place, because, as Andy Burnham said, it's not fair to punish the fans or someone higher up as me, because someone has to be held accountable for this, because it's definitely someone's mistake somewhere. And the one thing I don't want to see, or any Wigan fans want to see, is finger pointing. I don't want, oh, it's his fault, no one really coming out. It'd just be great for the football fans in the town if something to say, look, I made a mistake, this is what I've done, and I'll try and make it right. And I think the way to make it right is the 12-point deduction. I think it should be suspended until a thorough investigation.
Am I right in saying that? Am I right in saying that from your conversation with Andy Burnham, he feels like there are very good grounds to have that point deduction suspended?
Yeah, you're correct. He thinks we've got a very, very strong case with the evidence that has been presented from the club administrators. It's never been overturned before. No club has ever had a point deduction suspended or overturned, and that's probably why people have thought it's quite a long shot to actually appeal it. But that's why these deductions have an appeal option, because if you feel like you have a case, you feel like you've been unjustified and you've been wrongfully wronged, I think you've got every right to fight the cause and appeal. And personally, I think we've got a good chance. But and I know a lot of people are saying, because obviously Bolton Berry, they didn't get their point deductions overturned, but everything's impossible until someone does it. So I feel like we can be a real history makers here, and I've never seen a club fight administration like we can have. Never. We've kind of fought our case so well so far. It's only been a week since it happened, so it's still quite fresh in everyone's mind. But the real task now for me and a lot of fans is we need to keep it on the forefront of everyone's minds, because in a few weeks' time people will forget, and we don't want to be forgotten. We want our case to be highlighted. We want it to be in the media, and we want the right people to take action and help this football club obviously survive and help us find a suitable buyer too, because the last thing we want is to get a new buyer, new owner, and it happened again. Mm-hmm. Because that's what happened at Bury with Steve Dale, and Lisa Nandy was expressing the importance of finding the right person, and I know Andy Burnham and Lisa Nandy have both been advocating a local buyer who knows the town. Obviously, the problem when you get a foreign owner, there's no attachment to the town, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. If they've never visited, to them it's just a name on a piece of paper. As if I owned a business in Hong Kong and I'd never been to Bangkok, for example, for me Bangkok wouldn't mean anything. I wouldn't know about it. I wouldn't know the town. I wouldn't know the people. I wouldn't know what it means. So if you just put it on that point of view, like the owners have never visited Wigan. Actually, before the podcast, I'd say about half an hour before we started recording, there was a statement from Stanley Choi, who was the International Entertainment Corporation figurehead. I think he was the founder, and he said he was saying that he loves the club and he didn't want to obviously sell it and what's happened. But for me, I know a lot of people thinking how dare he say he loves the club, because he's never been to the town. He's never made an effort. He's apparently scared of flying, but I just think it's so wrong what's happened to this club, and no fan deserves to go through what we're going through at the moment. I know it's happened so many times to football clubs, but I know it's quite well documented at the moment. But the last thing I don't want to wake up on a Saturday morning and not have a team to support. That's the worst nightmare. I know Bury fans, and they say the worst time of the week for them is on a Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. because they know where they should be. They know they should be at Giggle Lane supporting the lads, and they can't do that. And that for me is the priority now, to save the club, keep pushing our fundraising efforts, creating new campaigns throughout the week, and making sure this is on the forefront of everyone's minds. We're not going to let anyone forget this. Wigan fans, we're small in numbers, but it's the quality over quantity for me. Mm-hmm. We may only have a couple of thousand, but the couple of thousand we do have are all amazing in their own ways, and how they've spread the message over the last week is remarkable. I am so proud of every Wigan fan. Although it's a really awful situation, I've actually never felt more connected to this football club because we've all come together. We might not always agree who's starting on a Saturday afternoon or who Paul Cook's bringing on at our time, but we all agree that we love the club and we want the best for it.
Yeah, and one thing I would say is that, as you say, Wigan fans have, been certainly rallying the cause, and you have been very proactive and have been at the forefront of that. What type of initiatives have you started off since the awful news broke?
So on the Thursday, I first decided to write an open letter because I felt like Wigan do have a case for an investigation. I thought I just did it out of emotion, really, because I knew I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. I really couldn't, because Wigan Athletic have been a large part of my life since I was a young lad, and I know what's happening. It just wasn't right. Something didn't sit right. Something didn't feel right. I just thought to myself, if I can write an open letter appealing for the authorities, the EFL, to launch an investigation into what's happened and the circumstances why we're going down administration, I thought I'm just going to try it. Even if a couple of hundred of see it and know what's going on. And the response from that open letter was phenomenal, really. It's done better than I'd ever imagined in probably a million years, because as of this morning, it's been seen by over 550,000 people. So that's over 500,000 people have read the open letter and know about Wigan and what's been going on, and know that we're hunting for an investigation. And I actually I saw a statement from the EFL. I think it was on the Tuesday this week. It's hard to keep track of days, to be honest, and they said they are actually going to investigate. So for me, that was quite job well done, because it's not just me. Let's obviously get that out there. There's strong Wigan fans. If I was to name every one of them that who's helped the cause in any way, we'd be here till probably next season. It's been a real team effort. Everyone's pulled away. Everyone's got together. Everyone's fought the fight. And for me to have an open letter seen by over 500,000 people, it just shows how much publicity we can kind of attract. And obviously as well, the more people that know about your case, the more likely you're going to get help and intervention, because we've seen in times the biggest influence on big companies to make decisions is public pressure. Mm-hmm. So if we keep on the pressure, we'll eventually get actions. And I just think we've got to keep fighting, because this club is the lifeblood of our community. It means so much to everyone. I mean, the community trust we've got at this football club is amazing, because during this coronavirus pandemic, it's been awful. I know a lot of fans, Wigan fans, they do live on their own. They're widowed, and the club have been very, very important in helping the vulnerable. They've been ringing up elderly people, making sure everything's okay, giving them support on both a physical and mental level. They're delivering essential goods, and that's just one of many examples of the great work, the community trust day. And the next step for me, after obviously the open letter gained quite a lot of traction on social media, I just thought to myself, why stop there? I found a way to kind of advertise the club. So I made a promotional video to send a powerful message out to anyone who's going to be willing to listen. We have fans. We had about 40 fans in the Wigan gears from all of the years. We have former players. And one of them were Don in there, 1999 Auto Windstream Cup final T-shirt from his Wigan days. And I just thought, if I wrote a script, and I got different Wigan fans to say a different part, and like combine it together for one big video and a message, and that did really well. I think that got over about 40,000 views, and it's just about keeping Wigan at the forefront of people's minds, because the last thing I want, and the last thing a lot of fans want, we don't want to have obviously a lot of media heat over the next few weeks and then just suddenly disappear, and Wigan Athletic suddenly become just staring their fate in the eyes, because that's how clubs obviously don't get out of this predicament. Luckily, we have had over 60 interested parties in buying the club, so we should be able to find a suitable and trustworthy buyer, fingers crossed. But the thing is, for me, is that the fans, we're doing everything we can to save the club, because during this time there's no available funds. So the supporters club, who they run away games and all the travels for the club, they set up a crowdfunding page last week at 2 p.m. and since then, in just over a week, they've raised over £145,000, which goes a very long way in obviously paying for the players' costs in terms of getting to games, transport, helping out with a lot of funds behind the scenes. And the fans have all rallied together. They've been doing 10k runs. They've been doing all sorts of fundraising. Fans have been selling the beloved memorabilia, which they'd had for a very long time, and to sell them into the club. It was really powerful. I remember reading a message on the crowdfunding from an 11-year-old boy. It's his birthday next month. He turns 12, and for his birthday, he wanted his parents to donate all his birthday money to the club instead of on himself. And I think that's the most powerful one, because at that age, when you're a child, you have no real concept of what's going on in terms of financially. You kind of think money grows on trees. I know I probably did when I was that age, and to see that gesture from such a young boy is a credit to himself, the club, and his family. And it just epitomises how important this club is to the community and to the fans. And we've got to keep fighting, really. And the next initiative I had was, I believe it was Monday earlier this week. I'd been on a podcast the following Friday with a couple of Wigan fans who run the Progress with Unity podcast, and we were joined by Emerson Boyce, who was the 2013 FA Cup winner, Lisa Nandy, the Wigan MP. We also had a sports lawyer, someone from the supporters FA, and we had a really good conversation. And one of the fans suggested, he's called Adam Pendlebury, of looking out for people with mental health. And as I looked into it the following week, I was really concerned about the mental state of some of our fans, because I know a lot of people are distressed and anxious of what's been going on. It's really sad. So I just thought to myself, I'm going to try and make a difference, and almost hopefully try to come out stronger, because I set up a group called the Wigan Athletic Supporters Mental Health Group, which is designed to kind of give fans an opportunity to make new friends, reminisce of the good times, obviously share the stories about Wigan Athletic, and just kind of ultimately have someone to chat to if they're anxious or any troubles with the mental health. And it was so important for me to do something like that. We set up a WhatsApp group. We've got over 125 members in less than a week, who've already been brave and open up about what's been going on in their personal lives. I'm not going to mention the names because it's obviously disrespectful to them, but one fan, he said he has social anxiety. He struggles going out with friends and family. He struggles connecting with his friends and family because he's nervous about talking. But when he's at a Wigan game, he doesn't feel any of that. He's happy to join in any conversation. He'll chat to anyone, and the social anxiety is at the back of his mind, and he's worried that if Wigan do fold, he doesn't know what he's going to do with himself. And that's the magnitude of what we're looking at. That's the importance of the work we've been doing. We're lucky that in that mental health group we have got counsellors who are helping out with the initiative, because sometimes, although we can provide a friendly pat on the back and a shoulder around someone when they're in a tough time, sometimes we do need a bit of professional help from experts who have been in the field. So it was important to get that backing. And we've had Emerson Boyce, who I previously mentioned. He's become a group ambassador, and he'll help out when he can, as will Andy Burnham. But the initiative has really kicked off. We've made a really good virtual community, to be honest with you, because we've already got fans making new friends, and we're planning to have a physical meet up when we can with a few guest speakers on, raising money for a couple of charities. And it'd be nice to kind of, I personally think I'm very optimistic. I always have been. that will come out stronger after this. We'll have a stronger community, we'll have a stronger connection between fans, and to form a community like we've done for the mental health supporters group, that'll be great because it'll give fans a real opportunity to connect with people, because we've had fans who've posted in the chat saying like they don't really know anyone who support Wigan. They've moved away from the town at a young age. We've got fans from Chester and other places, and it gives them a chance to meet up with new friends, and that's what football's all about. And it's connecting with people. It's going to a pub on a match day before the game, having a couple of pints, and going to the pub after the game to either celebrate or drown your sorrows. And the social side of football is often underestimated. And for me, I've never really spoken about it in public, or I was never my intention to be honest. I think I'm just kind of speaking out at the moment. Last year, a member of my family, they had a really bad ordeal with mental health. It was got to a really serious stage. We had to seek professional help. I was practically a full-time carer, in addition to doing my uni work and other things. And I've seen how much, obviously, my family members, thankfully, we've helped her through that now with therapy. She's got a lot better now, and I managed to kind of read up about mental health and not become an expert, but be a little bit more educated of what I were. And I've seen how it affects people. I've seen how it affects families, and I've seen how it changes lives. And if I can help just one person prevent that from happening, I'm going to do it, because it was one of the darkest days of my life, and I want to do everything I can to help. And that's the sad reality of not the sad reality. That's the great reality of what we're doing, because we've got the power as people. We can help each other. It's not hard to be nice. It's not hard to be kind. It's not hard to look out for one another. During a time like this, it's so difficult. We don't know what's going to happen. I can say, oh, look, we're going to get a buyer, but I don't know that. We don't know that. The administrators won't know that. So there's a lot of uncertainty, but if I can spread the message and help out in any way I can, I'm going to do it. And I'd just like to say, this isn't a shameless plug, by the way. I'm not trying to gain anything from myself. And my Twitter's @jwhittle6. So if anyone's struggling with their mental state of being mind, and they just want to chat to someone who won't judge them, please give me a message, because I'm willing to help anyone. It means so much to me, and it means so much to so many people. It's probably one of the biggest silent killers. There's a massive stigma around mental health, and let's just break that stigma. It's okay not to be okay, and we're going to come out this stronger. We have Wigan Athletic, and I'm going to do everything in my power to help save the club and look out for people as well, because mental health, like I said, is so important. And I just thought to myself, if I can even just help one person, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And man to man, I think you're a credit to yourself, a credit to your family, and a credit to your football club. And, I'm always there for you. And I have genuine belief. I think you're going to go on to achieve great things within sports media. And as I say, if you ever need me, I'm there for you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
It's so nice. Obviously, we've had some great conversations on the tram to the Etihad campus from Piccadilly. We've reminisced about Sunday League. We've had some great chats, and I've always been very happy to see you. When I have seen you, I know we was on different courses, but it was always great to have a chat and get to know you a bit more, because our courses didn't really interact with each other really as much as I probably would have liked to. And it just shows the power of university as well, because we're from completely different places. I know you're from Liverpool, and I'm actually from West Norton, which is it's in the middle between Bolton and Wigan. I don't tell anyone that, because it's technically a Bolton postcode, but we don't care about that. But it's been a pleasure to obviously get to know you as well, and it's been amazing to see how you've done on your dissertation too, because I know you've worked so hard on your project. You've got a 2-1, and that's a massive achievement, and you've got to pat yourself on the back for that, because graduating from uni it's not easy. Not everyone could do it, and I know your family and everyone involved. I'm proud of you, and you've got to take a lot of pride. And you say I could possibly have a great career in sports media. I know you'll have a great career in sports media. Your podcasts on the Everton channel are phenomenal. I listened to the Peter Reid's one. I love that because Peter Reid, he's obviously involved at Wigan.
Yeah, there are many sort of cross-pollination.
Wigan, Everton, yeah.
And Wigan.
Wigan, Everton, I think
Rowe,
Everton are just trying their best.
Martinez, Peter Reid.
Joe Williams.
Good few names.
Joe Williams definitely slipped onto your radar. I think with his performances this season, he would not look out of place in your midfield, especially when it's looked a little bit lifeless. And this is also another point. Mention the Everton players. If Wigan do go down, it'll trigger release clauses in some of our players. So if we go to League One, I believe Joe Williams and Anthony Robinson, they'll both be available for 1.5 million. So it just shows the massive financial implications as well, because as it stands, we're 8 points clear from the drop. If we obviously finish above 12 points, above the bottom three, that means we can be hit with a deduction and we'll still be safe. But the massive financial implications of this is massive, and that's why I want the deduction to be suspended, because it's so important to me and so many people, because you've got to bear in mind Anthony Robinson. He was a medical away. He sadly had problems with his heart. It's turned out to be all right. He's back playing. He's looking better than ever. He's one of the best athletes I've ever seen, and he was probably a medical away from completing a 10 million move to AC Milan in January. If we can go down, it'll go to 1.5 million. That's a lot of money in a couple of months.
That's a huge.
And it bids the question too is the time of the administration for me, because it happened last week. The season finishes in a couple of weeks. They get a couple of million from the Championship for finishing and staying up. And then obviously they'd be able to sell players in a few weeks after that. So we've got a lot of sellable assets at this football club. We've got a lot of great players. Our academy's phenomenal. I know Everton's been eyeing up Joe Gelhardt, like the rest of the Premier League, and the club that gets him, they're going to be very lucky. Put it that way. He's phenomenal. He's 18, just turned 18 in April. He's been dubbed the next Wayne Rooney, and you don't get comparisons like that if you don't have anything about you. And for me, the financial side of things is massive for the football club. If Wigan obviously able to win the appeal against a point deduction, we do get relegated, it will probably set the club back by a couple of years. We've worked so hard to build the academy. That's who I feel the most sorry for, to be honest, because I know in situations like this, Premier League clubs kind of do swoop on and almost snatch the youngsters from the clubs in administration. I'm not criticising that, because we did it to Crystal Palace with Victor Moses all those years ago. But it's just a shame for Gregor Riok and everyone who's worked so hard to get us to I think we're a Category B academy now. So I know they've worked so hard to get those facilities, and to see all this work undone from on the pitch to how we've been performing. Fans were talking about a Premier League push a few weeks ago, believe it or not, next season through the playoffs, because our form's been nothing short of phenomenal. And to see what's happened through no fault of our own, and what it could have on the club implication-wise, both financially and obviously emotionally through the potential of the club going bust, it's beyond belief. I haven't got enough words to say. If this wasn't a PG podcast, we'd have a lot more.
It isn't. You can say whatever, mate. It's not a PG podcast.
I can say whatever, but I'm not one for being effing and jeffing or anything like that. I like to be quite well mannered, and I've learned if I don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And I just think the only thing I'm going to say is I'm not going to point the fingers at anyone. I'm going to say it's not. I'm not going to go, oh, it's his fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. He's the reason we've done it. He's done this. Mm-hmm. I just want a thorough investigation. I want the person who's obviously made the mistake. Mistakes do happen. Obviously, some mistakes are a lot bigger than other mistakes. But I just want them to kind of hold themselves accountable, because I know if I was in a position of power and my decision had led on massive consequences for obviously staff, players, fans alike, in my own self-pride, I'd admit my mistakes and I'd happily face repercussions because I know it'd be my error. So it's just a case of now asking the dignity of some people because something's gone wrong. Someone's let the club down, and it's now finding out who. And all we want now is to just have a secure future because Wigan Athletic, everyone calls Wigan Athletic for having no fans and stuff like that. But you've got to admit, everyone would miss Wigan Athletic. He'd be doing the giant killings. He'd be beating City every year in the FA Cup. He'd be defying the odds of staying in the Premier League for 8 years after looking like they're going to go down every single year. Who's going to provide unforgettable moments? I mean, Wigan have not just been a massive football club for the town. We've been great for the Premier League, in my opinion, because, like you said earlier, when you remember looking back, you think of the Northwest contingency in the Premier League, Blackburn, Burnley, Bolton, Wigan. Obviously, you get the likes of the Merseyside teams and Manchester United, City, and you just think if Wigan ceased to exist, there'd be a massive hole in not just Wigan but in the Football League.
I was going to say, encompassing everything that you've just said, every sort of sub-facet of the football club, from the academy to the community trust to the groups that you're setting up yourself to the people at the club that make up the day-to-day operations. I often describe football clubs as a cultural hub for their communities.
Absolutely.
They mean so much to the people of the town or the city that they are based in. And one of the things that I wanted to raise for 2 years, I don't know how much substance there is to this. I've only seen a few news articles flash out, and I know several people have said that it looks promising. Wigan is obviously a big rugby town as well. And I've seen there's been several links to potential assistance by the Warriors, is it?
Yeah, that's correct. So I'm not too sure about the ins and outs, but I can give you my opinion if something did happen. It's a Wigan Warriors consortium as well. It's not the case of Wigan Warriors owning Wigan Athletic. It's a case of Wigan Athletic and Wigan Warriors being under the same roof, running the same buildings, and being united as a sporting town. It's not the case of like, oh, they're owning who. And I personally think it would be great for the town because people outside Wigan don't know this, but there's actually been a bit of a rivalry between Wigan Warriors fans and Wigan Athletic fans.
Is that down to the pitch? Is that down to the state of the pitch that the rugby leaves it in?
Funnily enough, no. I think it dates back to quite a long time ago, and it's absolutely bonkers because I just don't get it. Because I'm a proud Wigan fan. I don't really follow rugby league, to be honest with you. I watch the odd game. I do find it quite entertaining, but I do like Wigan Warriors. I like to see them doing well, and you think that they'd have the same sentiment about Wigan Athletic, but I see a lot of fans at each other's throats, and I think it's time now to stop this rivalry and just unite the town as one. And I think this will go a long way in doing that. In terms of Ian Lennigan, who owns Wigan Warriors, he'd be a great chairman. I've interviewed him a few times. He's a very smart and intelligent individual, and I think the thing that stands out for me most is he knows the town. He's a proud Wigan. He'll have the best interests at the club at heart. I'm not saying the previous owners didn't have the best interests at the club at heart, because I'm not sure what's happened yet, but they know the town. They've got that personal connection with Wigan. And I just think Wigan don't live beyond the means, Wigan Warriors. So I feel like it will be a really safe move going forward. But I think the biggest question mark about that, which has been raised by a lot of people, is the finance side of things. Have they got enough money to offer something attractive enough? And will they get outbid by the other interested parties? We're yet to know. And the potential of that idea would be great for me. I'd welcome it with open arms. I've seen fans actually almost raise their eyebrows about it. And be like, nah, I don't want that happening. And like, you can't be going, oh, save the club, save the club, save the club. But actually, nah, I don't want to be owned by them. It doesn't work. It's not save the club, but on our terms. It's save this football club. To me, I just want someone to own the club who loves the club. They understand the town. They understand what it means to the community, to the fans, to the players as well. And I just want someone who has the club's best interest and the long-term future as well. I want it to be safe because I've had very good memories of growing up as a Wigan fan. I've gone to games with two generations, my granddad and my dad. I'd like, if one day I have kids, to kind of almost show them the ropes as well, give them the same joys I had of being grown up as a football fan. And for me, if Wigan Athletic didn't exist in a couple of years and I don't have that chance, it breaks my heart, to be honest, because you don't imagine it, do you? You don't wake up one day thinking, oh, we might not have a football club anymore, and that's what's currently happening at the moment. The implications or what's going on to not have that opportunity to kind of raise my kids as Wigan fans, it's heartbreaking because there's nothing more I want if I have kids one day to have the little Wigan Athletic baby grows, all the little kits. I want to have that opportunity to kind of show them of what I was brought up with and show them the joys of Wigan Athletic, because there's no club like us. We're so special, and they need the opportunity to see that themselves. And I feel very privileged to have gone to so many games I've gone to be taken by my granddad and my dad to games. I've been to Wembley, seen the club win an FA Cup. I know that's what you've not seen, that your team win a domestic trophy or any sort of trophy. I have to get that in there because I'm a very, very mean person. But no, Wigan have caused so many great memories for me, and a lot of my greatest days in my life has been through supporting Wigan Athletic. So I want that to be the case for my kids as well. And it's quite funny because I could get married in a few years' time, we don't know. And I still think the 2013 FA Cup final will be better than any wedding I could have. My girlfriend, if she's watching, I will suddenly be back on the market if she is that.
No, I was going to say, I remember that FA Cup run of yours clear as day, and I remember being sitting there in Goodison
3 minutes.
One of the worst 3 minutes of my life. Callum McManaman running riot.
Yeah, I just remember him running that. I think it was Phil Neville's wayward pass, and it was him and Sylvan Distin. I don't know why I said Distin, in a foot race, and there's only going to be one winner in that, isn't there? But no, it's been a special couple of years, really, and we've won a few titles as well. I mean, we've been kind of yo-yoing between Championship and League One. And now I think we're finally asserting ourselves as a good Championship side. Before Brentford last weekend, we hadn't conceded in 7 games. To do that at Championship level, if Leeds United or West Brom did that, that'd be a massive achievement. But for Wigan to do that is amazing. But it just shows kind of how our specialist team is as well, because they could have easily kind of, like I said earlier, they could have stopped playing. It was in their right to. But they just want to do well for the club. They know how much it means to the town. And that, for me, is amazing because I'll never forget on Wednesday we beat QPR 1-0. And after the final whistle, because obviously there's no crowd, you could hear the players just shout the delight. And it gave me goosebumps to kind of see the fight they're putting up on the pitch is so admirable. It's beyond belief what they're doing for this club. Our captain, Sam Morsey, wow. A lot of fans, he's an unbelievable player. A lot of fans would class him as a good servant, but he's gone from a great servant to a legend now, in my opinion. They all have. Every Wigan Athletic player is still representing the club on no or little to no pay, are a legend in my eyes. They'll go down in history, and it gives them a real opportunity as well to make history, because they want to be known now as the team that didn't just take it lying down. They're going to be the team that helped save the football club. They're going to be the custodians of Wigan Athletic. someone didn't have the best interest of the club at heart, but they certainly do.
Most definitely, and I wish the group of playing lads that you've got all the best and the best of luck in the remaining games that they have towards the end of the season. Now, to look towards rounding this up now, Jay, I know that you said that you didn't want to point any fingers or play the blame game, but what are the conclusions that you want to derive from this after it's said and done? Fingers crossed. I have faith in that Wigan Athletic will have the outcome that they deserve. But there's several things that jump out from this for me. Two of the most namely things are, firstly, betting companies' involvement in football. I know betting and sports is synonymous, and I'm not suggesting that it will dissipate entirely. I don't think it will. But it has been a point of contention for many, many years now, especially when it comes to front of shirt sponsorship. And the other thing, and something that I covered in my dissertation, which you mentioned, was the EFL's owners and directors test.
I think there's a lot of things that I like to say come out of this, and the first and foremost, for fuck's sake, we'll have to just redo that. I keep getting phone calls during the podcast. I keep having to try and end them. But can I? Will you cut this? Can I just? I'll just start answering it as I would have done. So the first thing I want to come out of this is the long-term future of this football club. I want to find the right buyer. It's so important not to rush it. It's so important to get it right. We want someone who has the best interests of hearts. They know the town. They know the club. They know how much it means to so many people. And I think the fundraising efforts and the campaigns fans have been doing, that just emphasises how much the club means to them. And for a potential buyer to see not only the fans' efforts, to see how much they care, to see the players' efforts on the pitch too, how much they care on little to no pay. I think that's going to be a big statement and a big help in finding a buyer. I also like the EFL to suspend the point deduction until a thorough investigation is carried out and we find out what's well and truly happened. It's up in the air at the moment, but I think I think it's unfair to impose a 12-point deduction, which could potentially send the club down without thoroughly investigating what's happened around the administration. If Wigan did get relegated, it'd be a massive, massive impact. There'd be loss of jobs, even more loss of jobs. They won't be able to do the services they've been doing in community trust anymore, and it almost makes the club less attractive to buy as well, because if you're an owner, when you're looking to buy a football club, you're going to go for a League One club or a Championship club. They're already one division ahead to get into the Premier League, and a lot of owners, and not everyone, they aim at taking their club to the Premier League because that is the pinnacle of English football. That's where everyone wants to be. So that's what I want on a club level. In terms of your betting comment, I'm not quite sure if I know Wigan are sponsored by a betting company. I'm not sure if their involvement, if any involvement, I wouldn't like to speculate because it's not fair and it is potential slander and defamation. But I think there is an issue with betting in football which needs to kind of be looked at to kind of safeguard. And I think as well, making bets on football as well, it needs to be reassessed for me because there's a lot of promotion from like Paddy Power and likes of them kind of companies, and I know a lot of people who've had issues with gambling over the years, and I feel like gambling is a massive, massive thing in people's lives. It's as much an addiction as alcohol is, drugs, and you've got to highlight that for me because you don't want to lose your livelihood over bets, because I know once you're addicted to something, you can't you can't obviously lose your appetite for it. You kind of lose yourself in that. I've never had an addiction to anything, so I can't really speak from my own experiences, but I know that it could take over your life, and we need to kind of reassess that. I also think, as you referred to the fit and proper person test, otherwise known as the owner and director test, I think the EFL do need to reassess that and strengthen it, because if this has happened to Wigan, it could happen to any club, and it's their duty, it's their job to legislate, it's their job to look after clubs and safeguard them. And I feel like as though if they are able to strengthen it, it will be a massive benefit for football in the future. I just hope they can use us as an example to change the ways and help change the world of football for good.
Most definitely, I certainly hope so. Jay, I want to thank you very much for your time, and as I say, you fully merit every single platform that you get yourself onto to explain the current situation that Wigan find themselves in, and to, as you say, be the voice of the voiceless. As always, mate, you're always welcome to come on whenever you want. I've got a list of people, but all you need to do is drop me a message to come on. And
thank you so much.
Of course, I was just going to say again, get your social media handles out there so people know where to find you.
Please can I just also say one thing as well. I'd like to thank every Wigan fan, because although I'm doing these podcasts, I'm doing these interviews, it's really not me. I'm just quite happy to talk. Really, I know a lot of fans are camera shy. It's every one of our fans who's helped. It's whether you've donated on the crowdfunding page, it's whether you've shared posts, it's whether you've tried to investigate things yourself. It's a massive team effort, and we couldn't have done it with anyone. We're currently keeping it fresh in everyone's minds, and every Wigan fan deserves praise for that, because it's so special, this club, and it just shows how much it means to the town. And I'm so proud of every single Wigan fan, because it's been amazing this last week. Because although we faced our biggest ever challenge, I've definitely seen in my lifetime, we've come together in ways that I've never seen us before. I've never felt more connected, and everyone should give themselves a massive pat on the back. In terms of my Twitter, it is at jwhittle6. So if you want to follow me, I'll be covering obviously the Wigan administration. I'll be posting updates about the mental health group. I think that's the biggest thing I'd like to plug, because if we can help save someone and help them in a really difficult time in their lives, it's job done for me, because it's so important to look after each other. We've seen it over this year that mental health plays a massive part in so many people's lives. I know, sadly, Carlyle, who was the Love Island host, she sadly committed suicide. So it just shows how mental health is so important. If we can break the stigma, let people know it's okay not to be okay, we will do really well and go a long way, because it's so special and it's so important.
Definitely. Everything that you said there, I echo 100%. And I'd also like to add from an outsider's perspective, I wish nothing but the best for Wigan Athletic Football Club and everybody connected to the club itself. Thanks for listening.